everybody, it's Tina. I'm back today to tell you my labor and delivery story. So as you're probably already aware, we had our baby girl on Tuesday, May 29th at 3:59 in the morning. Yes, she was a night owl. Everything went great with her delivery. We did have a couple of scary moments and some things that were unexpected. So I did want to share my labor and delivery story with you guys to maybe help someone that is expecting, or if you're just looking for information on that kind of stuff. I can kind of give you a little background on what happened with us. So basically, just to give you some background on it, I never intended to have a unmedicated delivery. I was a person that was not opposed to having an epidural during delivery for pain relief. I just know me, and usually pain stresses me out really, really bad, and I wanted to be able to enjoy the experience of having her as much as possible. So I was always, I told my doctors from the get-go that yes, I want an epidural, I do want pain relief, things like that. Another thing about me is that I was Group B strep positive, which basically means Group B strep, if you're not aware, is just a strain of bacteria that 30% of women carry. And pretty much all of us will have it at some point or another in our lifetime. But if you do have it when you're in the third trimester of your pregnancy, it's very important that you get to the hospital early on in the labor process, because they need to administer IV antibiotics to you. We needed to have a special kind of antibiotics because I'm allergic to Augmentin, which is a form of penicillin, which is what they normally give people in labor that are Group B strep positive. So I couldn't have penicillin. I had to have a different kind of antibiotic, and it required that it be administered at least 4 hours before she was delivered, just to ensure that she was healthy and that I was healthy. There are some complications that can occur if your baby does, contract Group B strep during delivery, and they're not good. So they wanted to make sure that I had plenty of time to get the antibiotics before she was delivered. So let's start with the very beginning. So I've been having contractions basically on and off for weeks. And actually beginning at 20 weeks, I started having Braxton Hicks. I guess some women go through their entire pregnancy never having a contraction. And that really shocked me, because I had contractions the whole time. I mean, literally the entire second half of my pregnancy. I would usually have at least, 1 or 2 Braxton Hicks a day. And then getting forward into, the later weeks of the pregnancy, once I got into like 37, 38, I was starting to have some more practice contractions, which I wasn't aware were not quite as painful as what real contractions would be. So yeah, it was, I had contractions the entire time. It started on Sunday, which was over Memorial Day weekend, that Sunday. I wasn't feeling well the whole day. So I kind of was just camped out on the couch pretty much all day long, watching TV, trying to get some rest. I was really uncomfortable, and I don't know how to explain it. I had had some contractions, but nothing crazy. I just felt really, really tired and run down and almost sick. I don't know how to explain it. It was almost like if you were coming down with the flu. That's pretty much how I felt, just really, really exhausted and tired. So I was laying on the couch the whole day, and my husband, of course, at night was getting restless because we hadn't left the house at all. And he's like, let's go do something. Let's go for a walk. And I told him, Billy, I can't, I really can't walk around the block right now. It was about 8 o'clock at night when he started wanting to go out to do something. And I just told him, it's too hot. I don't want to walk outside because there's no bathroom, blah, blah, blah. So of course I was being grumpy pregnant lady, so I said, look, let's go to Walmart because I can walk around Walmart. It's in the AC, there's a bathroom there, plus I can get some shopping done that I needed to get done before the baby came. So we headed on over to Walmart about 9 o'clock. We walked around for about 2 hours. We did a bunch of shopping. I bought a bunch of stuff, just like paper towels, toilet paper, some baby things, some clothes for me, just stuff like that. All kinds of different things. But we took our time in Walmart and walked a whole lot in there. We probably walked around the store maybe 3 times or so, just to kind of get out of the house, and again, just to get walking. Well, we got back, I went to bed, we got back around 11, we unloaded everything out of the car. I went to bed probably around 12:30, and I woke up about, I know exactly when it was. I looked at the clock. It was 3:05 when I woke up, and I had a strong, painful contraction. Now, when I say strong and painful, I mean this was definitely different than the other contractions I had had previously. So it woke me up out of my sleep. I got up out of bed, I went to the restroom, I came back, I laid back down, and I could not lay back down because another contraction came. So it was like, to put it in words is kind of almost impossible. It felt like someone was taking a knife on the inside and just kind of stabbing my abdomen and my back. I don't know how else to say it. It was really excruciating, and it took my breath away. So at about 4 o'clock, which is about an hour after I woke up my husband and said, "Billy, we need to go to the hospital. I think I'm in labor," because I had had many contractions over the hour, and they were so painful that I was distracted, and I didn't even get a chance to time them because I was thinking, or I wasn't even able to think. I was just like, oh my gosh, this hurts. So I was kind of doubled over in pain. I did not even think to get out my phone and pull out that little contraction timer app that I had going. I just knew that this was different and I needed to go to the hospital. So we get to the hospital, and I was dilated to 4 centimeters. Now, we had had kind of like a false alarm the previous Tuesday. I was sitting here at night again, you know, just relaxing, and I started having contractions that were about 1 minute long and 3 minutes apart, but they weren't super painful. I was not like, my breath wasn't taken away. Everything I had read about contractions and labor said pretty much that you won't be able to walk or talk through the contractions, and these were not that painful. I was definitely able to do it. However, I was thinking in my head, well, you know, maybe I have a really high pain tolerance, and as I mentioned, I was group B strep positive, so I needed to make sure I got those antibiotics before she was delivered. So we went in on Tuesday night and got checked out, and I was dilated to a 3.5 then. So when we got to the hospital Sunday, I was only dilated another 0.5 centimeter 4. Obviously, I was sent home on Tuesday night because I wasn't in actual labor. They just said probably over the next couple of days, maybe, we'll see. You know, it could mean nothing as well. You probably, you know, you could go overdue for all we know. Just see what happens, you know, but wait it out at home. Get to the hospital, I'm dilated to a 4, but I am in excruciating pain. I mean, it is just unbelievable amounts of pain, and these contractions are coming fast and they're coming hard. So they told me, they hooked me up to all the monitors. The nurse said, okay, we're going to check you again in about half an hour just to see if you've progressed at all. And they did check me, and I had progressed another 0.5 centimeter. So she called my doctor, and she told him what was going on. He talked to me on the phone, and he said, look, you know, you're not progressing as fast as we think, you know, as you should if you're in actual true labor. And so I said to him, look, you know, I am in a ton of pain. So he talked to the nurse again. They gave me a drug called Statol, which was an IV. They had hooked up an IV to me just in case I was going to be admitted, and also just to get some fluids in, you know, for whatever reason, just to be ready in case. Because I think the nurse was pretty confident I was going to be admitted at that point. But my doctor said no, go home and try to wait it out a little bit, and we'll see what happens. So she gave me Statol at the permission of my doctor's instructions. And Statol is a drug that they give to women that are in labor that choose not to get an epidural. Usually it's like an IV pain medication. And she gave me like the lowest dose that they could possibly give me because she knew I was going to be going home. So she said, go home, try to get some rest. You know, she said, and I was really upset at this point. I was like, you know, I looked at her and I said, Callie, I'm going to have this baby at home if you send me home. And she said, you're not going to have the baby at home. Don't worry about it. I told her again about the antibiotics. She totally understood, you know, where I was coming from. But, you know, again, it was doctor's choice whether or not to keep me. And he just decided that, you know, I'd probably be better waiting it out in the comfort of my house versus in the hospital. Also, because I had told them I didn't want to have Pitocin or to be induced at all. As far as that goes, I was really nervous about having any sort of Pitocin or, you know, induction of any kind, just because I know it really raises your risk of a C-section and things like that. So he said, fine, you know, you can go wait it out at home, blah, blah, blah. So the nurse said, you know, Tina, just go home. If it doesn't get better, come back in a couple hours. You know, everything will be okay. Don't worry about it. So we get in the car and we're driving home, and I was just bawling my eyes out because I could not believe I was being sent home in this amount of pain. The Statol really did nothing. It did not take away any of the pain that I was having. I was crying. I was just in immense pain. So we get home. I resumed my position back on the couch. I turned on my heating pad. I was going to try to just relax and, you know, get a little bit of rest, maybe get some sleep because I hadn't slept, you know, very much. I went to bed late. I woke up really early with the contractions. So I laid on the couch. I told my husband to go take a nap just in case this ended up being it, so that he could be rested for, you know, labor later if we needed to go back to the hospital. Plus there was nothing he could do. So I camped out on the couch, and as I was sitting there with the heating pad, the contractions just got worse and worse and worse. They were coming very, very close together, almost right on top of each other at this point. I didn't really even have a break, and if I did have a break, it was maybe like 30 seconds, 45 seconds in between contractions. The pain was very, very intense, and at that point I was kind of just on my hands and knees crawling around the floor. I would stop, I would just curl up into a ball. I was grabbing onto like chairs and things like that, just trying to like relieve some of this pain. I couldn't really walk very well, and when I did get a break between contractions, I was usually running to the restroom because I still had to pee a whole lot. I had just had a whole bag full of IV fluids, and I was trying to drink a whole lot of water to kind of just give myself something to do other than focus on all this pain. But I could not even think straight. Like I'd get the break in the contraction, I would like hustle over to the bathroom, I'd pee real quick, I'd usually have another contraction, you know, as I was sitting on the toilet, and then try to get up, and I was just begging, praying that my water would break, because then I knew for sure I would get admitted, but it did not. So I was sitting here like this for about 3 more hours, just crawling around. Finally, about 11:30 in the morning, I went back into the bedroom. I woke my husband up again, and I said, Billy, we gotta go back. And my plan was that if the doctor was not gonna let me be admitted this time to the hospital, I was in so much pain that I was gonna go to another hospital and just try to get admitted there, because I could not handle the pain anymore. So I went into the hospital. Again, they checked my dilation. I was dilated another ½ centimeter, so I think I was at maybe like a 5 at this point. But I called my doctor on the way in, and I said, you know, Dr. Reyes, I can't do this. You know, I was like, I really, really, really need pain medication. I can't take it anymore. So he said, go in, have the nurses check you out. They're gonna call me and let me know what's going on, and then we'll figure out if we're gonna admit you at this point. So it's kind of hazy, the details, and don't quote me, but I was either a 4.5 or a 5 when I went back the second time. I was ½ centimeter more. I had progressed ½ centimeter basically in that 3.5, 4 hours that we were home. So she called my doctor again. He said, oh, you know, we typically wouldn't admit you at this point because you're not progressing fast enough, but we'll go ahead and admit you since you're in so much pain. Thank goodness. So they started IVs on me right away. They had me hooked up to all the contraction monitors, monitoring the baby. Everything was good with her, which was great, but I was just in immense pain. I mean, just crushing pain. It was so crazy. So they got me into the delivery room, and they hooked me up, or they called in the anesthesiologist who was going to do my epidural. And he came in. He was a super nice guy. His name was Nick. I apologized to him in advance because I was in so much pain I couldn't even behave normally. I was just writhing in pain. So he did everything for the epidural. Basically, he prepped my back. You know, I had to sit over on the bed, kind of hunched over. I could feel him cleaning my back, and then he gave me a shot of local anesthetic, which it felt like, compared to the contraction pain, I'm not even gonna kid you, it felt like nothing. I didn't even feel it, to be honest with you. It was that, like, I mean, normally probably I would feel it, but I was in so much pain from the contractions, I didn't even notice it. So then he's like, all right, we're gonna put the epidural in. You know, he was kind of walking me through everything. He was super kind about it. He had like an apprentice with him as well, learning, you know, how to do it and all that. So he was showing him everything. So they put the epidural in, and within about 20 minutes, I felt immediate, like, just so much relief. It was crazy. All of a sudden, like, every muscle in my body just let go, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could finally breathe again. I could open my eyes. I could just function. It was the best thing ever. Like, honestly, truly the best feeling I've ever had. It turns out too that when I was in all that pain, I was clenching my jaw so hard, I think I actually chipped a tooth in the back, which is crazy, but my face even hurt because I was like, just like clenching my jaw so hard because it hurt so much. But once the epidural got in, everything was so much better. It was great. A lot of things, one of the things I didn't know about an epidural is when you get it, you basically can't lay on your back anymore, which makes total sense. I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but you have to lay either on your left or right side. So what I was doing was rotating every 30 minutes from laying on my left side, laying on my right side. I went through that for about 1.5 hours, and then all of a sudden, I felt another contraction, like really bad, just the same as before. So I told my husband, please call the nurse. So we called the nurse, who called Nick back in, and I told him, he's like, oh gosh, you're feeling them again? And I was like, yes, and they were just as bad as when I first came in the door. Completely, epidural stopped working. So he's like, well, he looked at it, you know, he gave me a pump to kind of push a button when I wanted more anesthetic, basically. I was pushing the button, nothing was working. He said, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to redo it. And if it doesn't work this time, I don't know, you know, if you're going to be able to have one. So I, you know, was like, just go ahead and redo it. That's fine. So completely repeated the process. It worked, and I was so scared that it was gonna, you know, stop working again because I couldn't take it anymore. I was so over it. But yeah, no, this one actually stuck. It went through. It lasted the entire labor. It was awesome. Everything worked out with the second epidural, so that was definitely a big relief. So I had the epidural, and at this point it was about, I want to say 5 or 6 in the evening. I started to feel better again. I was up, I was talking to my husband. I hadn't had anything to eat or drink in a long time. My husband did actually give me, because the nurses never said I couldn't eat or drink anything, so he did go. They had a really nice station set up for dads and guests that had like different, you know, fruit juices and water and all kinds of things like that. So he did go get me some like, it was kind of like a high C, like I think it was like a strawberry limeade kind of drink, and I drank just a few sips of it. I didn't want to have too much just in case, but it was just something to kind of get to like wet my mouth because I was really like parched at that point. Even though I had the IVs going, I just felt like I needed something to drink, so I was taking very, very small sips of that drink. Also, I had ice chips if I wanted those, and then we did bring some hard candies to the hospital, so I was able to eat Jolly Ranchers and Werther's candies. The nurse saw me eating a Jolly Rancher, and it was really obvious because my entire mouth was blue, so I didn't even try to hide it from her, and she didn't say anything about it, so I'm assuming that was okay. Anyway, it was about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. The epidural helped with progression. I was actually able to progress another centimeter or so, so that was good. So I kind of just labored, you know, she turned down the lights, dimmed them down, we had the TV on, and then we were just kind of in labor, just kind of waiting for my body to progress naturally, as it was doing with the epidural. You know, since I got the pain relief, I just kind of needed that to let my body, you know, do what it needed to do. I think it was around, let me think, maybe 10 or 11 in the evening. I had been hooked up to the epidural for quite some time at that point. I think since like 1 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon. So the doctor wanted to give me a little bit of Pitocin just to kind of kickstart it because I was dilated, I think, to, I want to say a 7, maybe 6.5. It's a little hazy, but it had dilated. I'd progressed a little bit, but it wasn't progressing fast enough, and they didn't want me to be in labor for an entire 2 days. Okay, so the doctor, after pushing for about 10 minutes, the doctor said, Tina, we gotta give you an episiotomy. And I was like, well, you know what, do what you need to do. So he gave me the episiotomy. I didn't feel any of it because of the epidural, which was great. I think he did give me, actually, I'm sure he gave me a local anesthetic before the episiotomy as well. So I definitely didn't feel anything, you know, at all. I was bleeding, I could see some blood, but I just kind of turned my head and didn't look at anything. I was pushing, I could feel the baby coming down, like through my body. It was the craziest feeling. I just felt her kind of moving downward with every push. I could feel her getting closer and closer to coming out. So I kept pushing, and I pushed for about 25, maybe 30 minutes, and she was out. She was born at 3:59 a.m. and everything was good. The nurse had asked the doctor right before she was born if they should call in the nursery, which I knew meant the NICU. The doctor said no, he didn't think it'd be necessary, and sure enough, when she was born, everything was great. Her APGAR scores were perfect. You know, she was really, really good. She looked good. All of that was great. I had requested, and my hospital is a big proponent of doing kangaroo care for the first hour after the baby's born, which is basically you do skin to skin. So they take the baby straight from you, put her on your chest, and then let you hold her. They kind of just, you know, wiped her down a little bit, cleaned her up, and took a quick look at her, and then they put her right on me, and we did skin to skin for about an hour. At that time, she was really awake and alert, and you know, I could see she was hungry because she was like rooting around. She was kind of smacking her lips. She was chewing on her hands. You know, I could see she wanted to eat. So I asked the nurse, you know, hey, I want to do breastfeeding. What do I need to do? And she goes, well, just hang on. You know, we're going to get you over to your mama baby room, which is like your recovery room where you stay for the duration of the time you're hospitalized. And she goes, once you get over there, you'll be able to talk to a lactation consultant and they'll help you get everything set up with her breastfeeding. So I was like, okay, great. Well, it took about an hour and a half, I guess, to get over to the room and to get checked in and to get set up in there. So we got set up in there, and then they sent the lactation consultant in maybe about half an hour after that. So it had been about probably, I think, around 2 hours since she was born. At this point, she was kind of in and out sleeping, but when she would wake up, she was pretty grumpy because you could tell she was really hungry. So the lactation consultant tried to work with me and Emmy to get her to latch, and Emmy just really, truly would not latch. She wanted nothing to do with it. We tried several things. We tried the football hold, we tried the cross body hold, we tried everything, and Emmy just would not do it. She just would not do it. So we worked for probably about 45 minutes, an hour with lactation consultant, and she wasn't like the most friendly person ever. I don't know if she was tired because it had been a long night. It was like probably 5:30 in the morning at this point. It was, I mean, we were all tired. I was like, should I give her formula? You know, she's like, no, don't give her formula. If you do that, she's just gonna be a formula baby. And I was like, well, what do I do? You know, I mean, my baby needs to eat. I was like, she needs to eat. You know, at this point, Emmy was just screaming, you know, her head off. She was hungry. You know, I didn't know what to do. So she's like, I don't know what to tell you. She's like, you just got to keep trying to latch, keep working with it, blah, 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 blah. But again, her patience had kind of run out with me. And I don't know, I don't think I was being like overly annoying to her, but I just think maybe, again, she was tired. It was the end of her shift, something like that. Long story short, I ended up getting, the shift change was about 7 o'clock. I ended up getting a small bottle of formula to feed to Emmy just so that she had something in her stomach and that she wasn't frantically crying anymore. So I gave her a little bit of formula. She drank maybe like 10 milliliters of formula, which is like the tiniest amount. And then I got another lactation consultant, and she brought in a pump, and she's like, you should really try to pump colostrum. She, again, tried to work with me to get the baby to latch. You know, again, now we've been working for probably 3, maybe 4 hours trying to get Emmy to latch, and there was nothing anybody could do to make her do it. So we were working, and finally she brought in a pump and said, well, at least try to pump some colostrum so that you can feed it to her in a syringe, so that she's at least getting that. So that's what we did. I pumped colostrum, and amazingly, when I pumped the very first time, I got a lot of colostrum. The nurse was like, wow, this is a lot. You know, it was a pretty good amount, like I want to say almost an ounce of colostrum. So we were able to feed that to her and then supplement with formula, which is not the way I wanted to do things. I did not want to have her on formula at all, but at the time there was really nothing I could do. My milk hadn't come in, and after that initial pump of colostrum, I really didn't have anything left to give her. I just had like very few drops, and to get that out of the pump was just crazy. I mean, the only thing I could really do is just take my pinky, get it on there, and then put it in her mouth, because that's how much it was. There was not even enough to suck into like a little tiny syringe. So, I mean, it didn't go the way we wanted things to go, but it worked out in the end. About day 5, my milk came in, so that was like the day before yesterday, I think. So I was able to start pumping, and as of right now, I'm pumping about 3 ounces every 2 hours. So that's a really high output, I think, for somebody who just had their milk come in 2 days ago. It's more than enough to feed her for the most part. I still do give her 1 to 2 little tiny bottles of formula a day. They're like the little infant bottles. They're 2 ounces a piece. So she gets between 2 and 4 ounces of formula a day, and the rest of the day, every single feeding, like every 2 hours or so, she gets breast milk. So it's been really good. I have about 6 ounces like stored in my freezer, and I hope to start pumping enough pretty soon, or not in my freezer, in my fridge, sorry. So I always have a bottle ready to go for her. And then I hope to start pumping enough to save some in my freezer for when I go back to work, hopefully over the next, like, you know, 3 or 4 days. I don't want to try to rush it, and I don't want to take away from the food that she's eating throughout the day right now. So I am hoping to just start that maybe, hopefully next week, I think, once my milk production really gets going and I have more than enough milk, hopefully, to store in the freezer as well. Alright guys, well that's the end of my labor and delivery story. I thank you so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!